What's going on, friends? Welcome back to the Honeystead. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee. I am a beekeeper, herbalist, homesteader, homemaker. I do a good bit of everything, and it has been a busy last couple of weeks, really. I mean, I'm sure many of you guys are probably kind of experiencing that, you know, same like, oh my gosh, we have got to get so much stuff done in such a short period of time. We have planted so many things in the garden. I had my baby chicks finally hatch, which I lost a whole bunch of footage of that, but I'm gonna just tell you right now, this was our first time using the chick cozy, which I think was such a cool little incubator. We put all of the green eggs in, which if you guys were able to kind of like, you know, see or hear a little bit of that story, I'll put that video kind of down below. But we loaded up all the eggs in the incubator. I actually set up 2 other incubators because I wanted to just kind of like knock it out. I think we did about 8 dozen eggs all together. Didn't hatch all of them, but the chick cozy, it was really cool because once you put the eggs in, you could kind of watch the entire process. The eggs would move automatically. I love the fact that it has a light inside, like on the lid. So when you go to candle them, you can kind of see what, you know, if the baby's developing inside. I have had so many candling flashlights go missing because it gets mistaken for just a regular flashlight. And I highly doubt that somebody is actually going to take the lid. But it was such a cool experience to be able to incubate some chicken eggs and have them hatch. If anybody is interested in the chick cozy, I do have a coupon code. I'm going to put that down below. It was so cool, and all the babies are doing good. They're all fluffy. They're all set up in their brooder. In a couple of weeks, we will be introducing them slowly to the rest of our flock. But yeah, this is new babies, spring, hatching eggs. If you've never hatched eggs before, I encourage you to do it, especially if you have little ones. Even if you're not, even if you don't have little ones, I still get excited about babies on the homestead. So I'm really excited about these beautiful little plants that I have growing right here. This is actually going to be my very first time actually growing artichoke. I chose to grow them inside the high tunnel, mainly because I'm not sure how they'll do if I were to grow them outside, and I do know that they take a little while to actually produce. So we're gonna give it a shot, and that is something that I love to do, is just always experiment. Now obviously eating artichoke is kind of one of those things. You can go to the grocery store, you can get the artichoke, but one of the things that I really want to do is kind of have that sustainability. So this is not only going to be a food source for us, I'm actually going to harvest the leaves from the artichoke and make a bitter with it. Now I kind of spoke about a bitter in one of my last videos, and people weren't quite sure what a bitter is, so I'm gonna just kind of go into just a little bit of detail. A bitter is an herb that is going to kickstart your digestive system. And so what you would do is you would actually harvest, for the artichoke, you would harvest the leaves and then chop them up, and then you would tincture them into an alcohol, or you can even do a brandy if you'd like, as long as it's 40 proof or 80% alcohol as a minimum, you should be fine. But you would take a bitter, and there's multiple different types of herbs that classify as a bitter. You can do dandelion root, you can do burdock root. I mix a few together, like I will do dandelion root with artichoke leaves and then fennel even. And so for me, what I found to kind of support my digestive system is I want to stimulate my digestive system actually before I eat. So common practice, this has been used for, you know, thousands of years, many centuries, of incorporating herbs that will kickstart your digestive system. So essentially what you would do is you would actually create a tincture. Just like any other herb, if you're using dried herbs, it's 1 part herb to 5 parts of your menstruum, which would be either your apple cider vinegar or your alcohol of choice. If it's dried. If it's fresh, you're going to use 1 part plant matter to 2 parts of that menstruum. I also like to add a little bit of honey into some of my bitters. One, because I think it tastes good. I'm not a big fan of using glycerin. I don't like that type of sweet, so honey for me is amazing. But what you would do is you would create a tincture, let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks, even sooner really if you want. Strain it out, put it in a dropper bottle, and then you're gonna take the dropper bottle and you're gonna actually take a few drops and just drop it directly on your tongue from anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes before you actually go to eat your meal. And what that does is that it starts to hit your sensory, your tongue, and adding in that little bit of flavor. One, it's going to start your digestive process by allowing you to salivate a little bit more. Then it's going to kick into your gut, and your liver's going to start working. Everything's going to start awakening is kind of how I describe it. Like, it wakes your gut up and then starts churning and moving, so that when you go to actually when you go to eat, your body has the ability to absorb that food a little bit quicker. It's also great to incorporate bitters, especially if you have a lot of if you have issues with digestion. Maybe consider adding in a bitter before you go to eat your meal, so that it will kind of help. It'll help facilitate the entire process. Now, you can play around with recipes. I like artichoke. I liked using artichoke, fennel. Lemon balm is even a good one. It's considered a mild, kind of like a relaxing bitter. I do plan on taking you guys into the Apothecary and making one with me. However, it is gorgeous today and we're gonna spend as much time in the high tunnel and then obviously out into the garden, because I think we're due for a garden update. But if you are interested in learning about herbalism, I do have an entire home apothecary course. You can get the course itself. You can also get the bundle guide where it teaches you how to grow certain herbs. And then I wanted to offer, because we did put out that we did our first herbal first aid webinar, which was so much fun. We have the replay available with all the slides and recipes. That is on my website. Go head over there, check that out. And then we've had a lot of interest in people asking if we would turn that herbal first aid into an ebook. And yes, I am working on that. We're gonna get that done hopefully by the beginning of June. So it will be available and I'll be sharing that with you guys. But let's go check out some other fun plants and I'll share with you a project that I am working on as well. This is my horseradish. Now, I can't remember if I actually talked about horseradish or not, but we do use horseradish a good bit. It is wonderful for clearing your sinus infection. So if you are congested and you need to really open things up, we take horseradish. And one of my favorite ways of actually taking horseradish is in our fire cider that my mom and we came up with our own recipe. Now, of course, take it, use it. This is an idea, but fire cider has been quite popular for a good bit now. But you can actually take your horseradish, we chop it up. This is our immune support. Mix it with oranges and jalapeno peppers and some turmeric and onions, and we also did pomegranate and cranberry. We just did a whole bunch of random stuff, mixed it into our apple cider vinegar, and we let that sit for a good bit. I do have a video if you're interested in learning and watching how we make our fire cider. We make it going into winter, so that we take little bits every day, just to kind of help boost our immune system. And then also using the apple cider vinegar, that's so good for your gut, especially the organic one with the mother. That's what you're looking for when you're picking your apple cider vinegar. But I also have had a lot of people ask how we mix our honey into the fire cider. What I do, because everyone's different, I actually don't put honey into our fire cider when I'm making it. I keep it completely separate, and then I'll add a spoonful as I take it, and I'll pour it in a little shot glass, add my little bit of honey, stir it around, take it, grow a little bit of extra hair on my chest because sometimes it's a little bit strong, but this is what we do to help kind of support our immune system. And I'm excited. Growing horseradish has been great because it's sometimes hard to come by. So, you know, all you have to do is take the root. If you find even organic horseradish root from your grocery store, just take it, throw it in a pot, and you will have a lovely horseradish plant. This came from 3 roots that I had cut, and I am very excited to be able to harvest our own horseradish come this fall so that we can make our own fire cider. And yes, I cannot wait to take you guys along with us on our mini fire cider making shenanigans. So that video I'll put down below. I'll also put it up top if you're interested in learning how to make some fire cider. Very fun, very easy, and it's a wonderful way to either get your community together, get your people together, get the ingredients. We have fire cider parties where we'll just all come together, do some chopping, have plenty of laughs, and then everybody leaves with a bottle. It also makes for a lovely gift, especially during cold and flu season. So, wanted to show my horseradish. It is getting a little bit hot in there, but it's also hot outside. So, let's go see what we've got growing out here. I can't remember if I talked about this plant on my last little mini garden tour. I'll put that video down below if you're interested, because I know that I did talk about a good bit of them, but I don't remember if I talked about this one. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna tell you, just in case if this is your first time watching. But this plant right here is known as wild lettuce. I actually have a nice little row of wild lettuce that I'm standing in. We use this plant for pain. Now you can take it, there's a few different ways to actually prepare this actual plant, but you can take it and you can actually chop it up, put it in your jar, add your menstruum, your alcohol to it, and then just let it sit, tincture for, you know, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks, shake it once a day. There's another technique that I'm gonna do. I was unable to do it last year, but I'm gonna do it this year just to taste and check the potency of this actual plant. But you would actually harvest it, you would slowly cook it down in a crock pot, and I'm gonna reference, it's gonna be my first time doing it this way, so I'm excited to try it and see. But basically you're gonna cook it down to create this like substance, like a tarry kind of substance, and then you would actually tincture that substance. I'm gonna experiment with it and see. I've seen a few people do it and they swear by it. You know, like I said, we've chopped it up and just tinctured it fresh, and it's worked fine. So when that happens, when we do that, I'm definitely gonna try to bring my camera with me on that adventure, so that you guys can kind of see that process of preparing the wild lettuce that way. Now, wild lettuce grows all around this area. It's actually kind of interesting. There was one year that I couldn't find it. I'm going foraging, I'm looking through the woods, I could not find it. And I verbalized, you know, hey, it would be awesome, you know, to have some wild lettuce. And I swear it was like not more than 2 weeks after I said that, I went out into my garden and it was like, boom, we had wild lettuce plants growing throughout the garden. And you know, I left them and I let them stay. And then I actually let some go to seed. Maybe not the greatest thing, because now I have wild lettuce babies all over the place. I actually did not grow these. They decided to just grow here perfectly in a row, and we're keeping them. We're gonna use this for our, not only for ourselves, but for our community. But once a year in July, what we end up doing is we'll have like a whole gathering where I get about, you know, 15 people that come out here to our homestead for one of our hands-on workshops. This is like the July big hands-on harvesting workshops where everybody comes together. They bring their jars, they bring their apple cider vinegar or their alcohol, and they just set up their own tinctures for their home apothecary from my garden, from what we have growing, and then from what we have dried, so that people can learn the difference between setting up a dried tincture versus a fresh tincture. And it's a blast. So I have a couple of spots available for that, but I think that's going to be stopping pretty soon. So that is on my website. It's called the Living Apothecary Workshop, but it's a great way to get people to, one, have that community hands-on. We talk about the herbs. You get, you know, digital information so that you can always reference back to it. But two, I mean, it's a blast. And I grow a lot of herbs, so why not, you know, allow for people to come in and actually help, you know, stock their apothecary with organically grown herbs. We don't use anything here. I've got lots of bees, so I don't want to hurt my bees. I want them to do the thing and come out and just, you know, be able to be on the flowers. But we do use bugs to help battle the bad bugs, which I was really excited because the other day I came out to my motherwort and I found a bunch of baby praying mantises all over the motherwort. But I have to show you guys the St. John's wort because it's starting to bloom. Do you see how beautiful this massive St. John's wort patch is? Now I use St. John's wort in multiple variations as a tincture. I will use it as a tea. I will also make it into a salve. Having St. John's wort into a salve is wonderful for aches and pains. Got a big old bumblebee, I think, that just flew by my head. But I'll actually take the St. John's wort and I'll infuse it in oil, and it is so gorgeous when it infuses in the oil. And then I'll mix it into some beeswax because I'm, you know, a beekeeper and an herbalist, so I combine my worlds together quite often. But this plant right here offers pain relief, especially in a salve form. It is so uplifting. It's actually a natural antidepressant. So if you are experiencing like seasonal blues, which sometimes I do in the winter months, this is when I will actually go to the plant and have it in a tincture form and use that to kind of help. There's actually a story about St. John's wort. There's quite a few stories about a lot of these plants, but there's a story about St. John's wort where many would actually turn it and make St. John's wort wine in the summertime, so that when winter came around and they were experiencing seasonal depression, the seasonal blues, they would sip on the St. John's wort wine, and that would lift up their mood and get them out of that. I do want you to be mindful though, with every plant that I talk about, there are contraindications, and this is where you would have to do your own research to make sure that this plant might be right or not right for you. I'm so pumped about St. John's wort. We're gonna get a really nice harvest. And then behind me, I hear the hum of the garden, and I'm just gonna turn the camera so I want you to experience this like I do. Now this is my motherwort massive patch that I have growing in our garden. It is all going to bloom. The bees are loving it. I love coming up here and just listening to the hum of my bees and just watching them enjoy the herbs like I do. All right, then right here I have my this is catnip, catmint. It has many different names. There is a difference though, and I had a lot of people were like, oh, well that's, you know, that's the wrong catnip, catmint. You're gonna see multiple different names for different plants. This one does produce a purple flower. There is a catnip that produces a white flower, but just know that you're gonna hear different and common names for certain plants. But this one right here, I honestly, this was kind of this one saved me. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if I shared this or not, but a couple of weeks ago we had a conference down in North Carolina that I spoke at. My daughter came with me to kind of help do the conference, and we went out to dinner and she got very, very sick from eating out, and I luckily was getting ready to do a class on actually, like, you know, infusing herbs into honey, and I had some catnip with me, some catmint, whatever you want to call it. I actually had some dried with me, and I went ahead and cut it up, blended it up, made her a very strong tea with some honey, and that immediately settled her stomach. And that was so very important, which is one of the reasons why I was like, gosh, I feel like we have to do this herbal first aid mini webinar, because I wanted to teach people, like, hey, if you're traveling, like, what are the herbs that you might need, or if you're in the woods, or if you're at your home. But this one settled her stomach. It's a carminative. It's also a sedative, and it allowed her body to just truly relax. I mean, her sickness had stopped and she was able to just drift off to sleep, and then the next morning she woke up and she was perfectly fine. So I'm going to love on this plant for as long as possible and keep growing it in the garden, because it has been a game changer in so many ways. It is a safe one for your littles, which is perfect, especially if you know, notice if they're experiencing colic even. This one it's truly a nice settling herb and great for the crankiness in adults and littles. So love on this plant. This one saved us, allowed me to go speak at that conference and her not be sick. And I will forever keep this one in my travel pack when we go out of town to conferences, which I have one coming up in June, actually, here very soon. So if you guys are going to the Homestead Festival, come by and say hi. I'm gonna have my tent set up. I'm also speaking as well. They put out the calendar. I think I'm speaking on Saturday. I gotta look at the time, but I'm gonna be there, so I hope that if anybody does stop by, come by and say hi. We're gonna have some goodies. I'll have some honey. I'll have some of my t-shirts and hive tools, and I'm hoping that we might have a few of our tea blends, but if not, that's okay. We will be there. It's gonna be fun, but love on some catnip. And actually next to it, I swear this is like my sedative garden. I've got my catnip, I've got my lemon balm beside me, I've got my chamomile, which, oh my goodness. But this one right here is called lemon balm, and it is another beautiful, beautiful herb, wonderful for anxiety, especially somebody who might be experiencing like stage fright, nervous anxiety. I'll tell you a little secret. Before I go and I speak, I will do a tincture of lemon balm, I'll do a tincture of milky stage oats, and then I do an adaptogen, and I think this year I'm gonna add some Tulsi into it. So that is my, like, hey, you got this, get up there. I might also do a little bit of yarrow too, and maybe some motherwort. We're gonna it's gonna be fun. That's all I'm gonna say. But this is what I use when I go and have speaking events that I might be, it's not that I'm nervous, it's just different, you know, because it's like, you never know how many people are going to be in that crowd. You never know if you're going to like disappoint somebody, and then it's like, you never know what you're gonna get from me, because sometimes I'm just like, and I just forgot what I just said. But for the most part, my speaking events are, they're pretty fun, and I enjoy myself, and I get to see a lot of you guys. So I will be taking a little bit of lemon balm with me in a tincture form when I go to speak, just to kind of make sure that my belly is not like, oh no, I'm getting nervous. But this one is lovely. It smells so citrusy. I also use it in a bug spray form. I will chop it up, mix it in there with some witch hazel, use some essential oils, and then I shared another in the herbal first aid. I shared my actual bug spray recipe that I go out and, you know, use whenever I'm out foraging, because the bugs love me. But I do love some lemon balm. But oh my gosh, I think I might have to brew some up. The other thing I like about it too is every once in a while, if I'm outside and I forgot to spray myself down with anything, I'll just take some of it and just rub it directly on my skin, and it'll help. I'll also put some in my hair if the gnats are bothering me. Our cows are gonna come say hi to us. But this right here is hyssop. Now, love the flower, gorgeous flower. It's one of those, this plant will produce thousands of flowers, and I love it. All the bees are already starting to find the flowers. But you can use hyssop for cough, for chest congestion. It's also yummy for your tummy, and I think it smells amazing. But this one right here kind of looks like lavender. Some people get it mistaken for lavender. It's not lavender. I do have lavender growing, but it's just like little babies. You can make this into a tea. You can make it into a tincture as well. But it's quite beautiful. And all my cows are coming to say hi. Now this part of my garden, I know I've shared before, but again, if you're new here, I just want you to envision. So all of this plant that I have growing up and over, this is all passion flower. Passion flower is one of my favorite sedative herbs. It's lovely for somebody who might be experiencing insomnia. You can make it into a tincture, you can make it into a tea. Produces a beautiful, gorgeous flower that the bees just love. And then what it does is, by giving it an archway, it is going to be a beautiful place to come and sit in shade. And it does produce a fruit as well. So I love passion flower. There are multiple different species of passion flower, so I do always say, like, hey, do your research, because the one that we're going after is the Passiflora incarnata. So bear in mind. Now it's starting and I have to come over and kind of like train it a little bit every so often. I also actually pulled up some, because my plan is in the archway that's over by our apiary, I'm gonna have some going up and over. So I'll be planting that here very, very soon. We're getting ready to get attacked by a moose. Oh, he's being a gentleman. Normally if I'm down here, he's like, fair game, and just like comes and pummels me and then gives me all the kisses. But we are gonna be attacked by a violet too. Come here, Violet. Oh, Violet. We have two pups on our homestead. This is Moose. He's an Aussie. And then I have Miss Violet, who's a Italian Mastiff. She's getting old and, you know, keeping up with Moose, but she's training him and teaching the new baby something old. Seriously, I just got slobbered. All right, you guys gonna be in here with me, or are you gonna go lay down somewhere else? Fair enough. The next plant that I wanted to talk to you about, because I have two leaves here in my hand. We have a lot of them growing just wild. You know, they grow in the grass, they grow all over the place, and a lot of the plants that are growing all around you actually have something to offer. So I want you to always kind of like you know, investigate for yourself. If you don't know what a plant is, you know, take a picture of it, reference a book. I have all of my favorite books that I use with herbalism or foraging. I actually have them on my Amazon storefront. So if anybody is interested in that, I'll put that there. But foraging is my favorite. And a lot of it is because I don't have to plant, you know, I just let it grow and I go out and I gather as I need. And then there is such an abundance that is around us. I love gardening, but I'll be honest with you, I prefer the wild gardening a lot better because there's no weeding. And if there is weeding, it's because you need to make something and use it. So this plant right here is called, this is plantain or broadleaf plantain. We get them massive here, but I picked 2 leaves. Some of them are small, but I picked 2 leaves that we have, and I actually have some growing in our raised beds. This is my go-to as a vulnerary herb, so it's very wonderful for mending tissue. I will take it and I will pop it in my mouth, chew it up, make a very classy spit poultice, and put it on an area where I might have gotten bit, which yesterday I got bit by a horsefly, and so I've got this kind of like round, very sore spot right here. As soon as I put it on, it'll draw out any of that irritant that gets into your skin that could cause, you know, infection, also the pain. But this plant's awesome. You know, you can make it into a tea, you can make it into a tincture, you can make it into a salve. But when I talk about the tissue mending properties, it's not only for external, it's also for internal. So if anybody is experiencing something where they need to mend their digestive health, this might be the plant that I would look at. Now, we've got it growing all over the place, but I do have some growing specifically in our raised beds so that people can actually see it and get their hands on it and touch it. But when we have our workshop here, you know, there's so many plants that are all around between mullein, yarrow, plantain. There's just so much. There's so much. But I am gonna go in, make myself a good cup of sun tea. I'm gonna actually take some mint, chop it up, throw it in a mason jar, fill it with water and let it sit in the sun, because we are in the season of making sun tea. I also had another video that I put out where I talked more about other plants, so I'm hoping that I talked about some different ones this time. If you're interested in that, I'll put that down below, and anything else that I mentioned. But I'm gonna go enjoy this rest of the day and then probably come back out here and do a little bit of work in the garden. But as always, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and learn something old. Bye guys.